Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Power of Perception Pro Wrestling Radio Network. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here, which is highlight indie wrestling. We're going to do that twice today. Our main channel has an interview right after this one as well. If you are new here, Scott Golden, I am a strategic interventionist, life and business coach, and a coach to entertainers as well, with a big-time passion for pro wrestling, as without it, I don't think I would have gotten into broadcasting at all. Today, Royce Isaacs will be with us momentarily. Royce is a star out of the Colorado area, but also has some international experience traveling all the way to Japan. Certainly a different world there when it comes to independent wrestling, and involved with Rocky Mountain Pro. Had a tryout with WWE and all sorts of other really cool things. In any event, we're going to merge that call now. Before we do that, though, give you just two bits of information. If you want to follow us on social media, which is a good idea, you'll find out when our shows are live. You can also get coaching and basically promotional packages. If you want to do that, there's two ways to do so. You can either do that on LinkedIn, Scott Golden, or do what 46,500 people are doing. Give us a follow on Twitter at PO Perception. You'll find out when shows are live and other great deals and valuable stuff. So anyway, let's merge that call. Royce, are you with us?
What's up, guys?
Thank you so much for taking time out of what I'm sure is a super busy schedule, what with international travel and all those interesting challenges that come along with that, and traveling all around the country.
I still don't know what time it is right now. Like, I have no clue. It's so weird to me, being like 15 hours time difference.
You just got back from a tour yesterday or the day before. Am I right in that?
Yesterday, yeah. Last night I got back into Denver maybe around 8 o'clock or so p.m. So I'm still pretty out of the loop in terms of getting my head out of my rear end and figuring out, oh, my God, it's 10 a.m. and it's bright out because it feels like it's, 7 p.m. and it should be sun going down,
All right, so let's start backwards. Talk to us about getting hooked up with Japan, and how did that come together? Was that a dream for you when you broke into the sport, and what has that experience been like?
Yeah, Japan's always been, like, honestly, before wrestling, Japan was always really, like, a place I was into. I always had a huge respect for Japanese culture, and, there's pictures of me from when I was, like, 3 years old in, like, full samurai costume and everything like that. Like, Japan's has always been a really, interesting culture and interesting place for me. So, obviously, once I got into wrestling, it was like, well, where do you want to wrestle? Obviously, Japan was, pretty much tops of the list. As far as how I actually got hooked up with DDT, I was pretty lucky. I think that's goes without saying, but they had a tournament going on, and someone got hurt, and I'd already been talking to them, and so it kind of just fell into my lap. I was lucky that I also had a good friend of mine, Kikutaro, was putting me over to them because we had met in Las Vegas. So, I mean, it all kind of just, like, it still, I guess, is a little bit surreal to me that I've gotten such a cool opportunity, and to be able to keep going back is awesome, man.
All right, and so kind of take us through, I assume fan first turned professional second, but take us through the process. What made you decide, hey, I want to get beat up on the weekends, or in your case, on a daily basis on a Japanese tour for a living? What brought you to that?
I mean, yeah, just being a fan growing up, enjoying the product. I grew up during the Attitude Era, so that was by far the hottest period of wrestling that there ever has been. So it was honestly pretty fucking cool to, excuse me if I'm not supposed to curse, pretty freaking cool to be able to, be a part of something that I've always liked. I've always been very athletic. I've always been, I competed in things my whole life. So going out into the real world and having a real job seemed really dumb. instead, I figured if I could make a living still being an athlete and wear some shiny spandex while I do it, why the hell not?
Well, and so take us through the process of finding a school. Take us through the process of what it takes and any surprises you had about picking up the sport from an athletic standpoint. What was the easiest part? What was the hardest part?
Finding a school, finding a school in Colorado is like going back to the dark ages of like when you had like dial-up internet and if you were on the phone, you couldn't be on the internet at the same time, and every web page took 35 minutes to load. That's what in 2014 finding a wrestling school in Colorado was like. I legitimately like couldn't find a school for maybe like a year or two while like actively searching and trying to find a place, and I was about ready to give up, just move across the country, find a place that would train me. And I basically got kind of lucky that a friend's girlfriend found a local show, and I went to that and hooked up with the promoter afterwards, and he told me, hey, this is where you need to go to get trained. But if I was I was looking actively, I was a former athlete actively looking to find a wrestling school in Colorado, and I couldn't. So that tells you how efficient that process was back then. Now if you search online, it's not too hard to find anything. You can find like 2 or 3 different schools that run out of Colorado, but 3 years ago that was a completely different case. I don't know, as far as what's easy, what's hard about wrestling, I think everything's a little bit hard. It's just repetition. Like it's like anything. You need to put in 10,000 hours to become a master. Like it doesn't necessarily mean you can put in 10,000 hours in a year. You can put in 10,000 hours in 10 years. But I don't think there's really like an easy way around anything in terms of some people do pick things up more faster than others, but not necessarily for me. I just like made it my thing that I did that all the time. I practiced every day. I practiced one-on-one. I thought about it a lot. It's not necessarily saying it was an all-consuming thing that's all I was doing, but like I was doing something to improve myself every day, and I still try to kind of attack it with that attitude. But there's always something that you can work on and practice.
And you know what's interesting? I mean, you talk about starting out in 2014, and so we're talking about less than 3 full years later. You've really ascended quite well. Is it that drive? Is it that personal determination that contributed to you going really far? Is it right place, right time? What would you say contributes to your success thus far?
Just being really good. No, I'm kidding. I think, so it's been just over 3 full years. It was April 2014, so I had my 3-year anniversary, I guess 2 months ago now, almost, damn near 2 months ago. I think that you have to work smarter, not necessarily harder, but work smarter than everyone. So you're working on things that what's going to make you a better wrestler, what are your weaknesses, what is going to help you get different booking. Like, I think there's a lot of, it's very easy just to fall into the trap of like, well, I'm just so passionate and I care so much, and like just caring on its own doesn't really mean a lot if it's not directed in the right ways. A lot of wrestling is pretty like common sense. Like, if I want to do X, then I have to do Y plus Z. So if you're not doing Y plus Z, you can try really, really, really hard at W, but it's not going to get you anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, wrestling, you have to have some common sense. You have to have some common sense on what you're working for and what you're working on and why you're doing it, because there's only so much time in the day that you can, make something happen.
And I would also make the assumption that treating it like a business and not just, hey, I finally get to be in a ring and I'm special, has a lot to do with it too. I mean, if you want to move on in any business, whether it be sales, marketing, an entertainment level business, you have to treat it like a full-time venture, and you have to treat it with the respect of a business. Would you say that is another factor of it?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's 100% a factor. I don't know. I mean, it's a matter of like dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have with wrestling. A lot of times, I think it's very important to take all aspects of wrestling seriously. And a big part of that is people call it, the biz and the wrestling biz a lot, but they don't necessarily treat it like a business often. And I'm not saying like you have to have a full like expense reports for everything and here's our GL for 2017 or whatever. Like that's not necessarily what I mean, but taking all aspects of wrestling seriously, including going to the gym, your nutrition, learning, more moves, figuring out how to make yourself marketable as a brand, figuring out how to brand yourself. Like everything about wrestling is connected and matters. So figuring out how, what are the top guys doing? How can I both do the things that they're doing successfully, but also distance myself in terms of making myself unique and original. I think all that stuff's super, super important.
Kind of interesting to me as I do research on the western states, your Arizona, your New Mexico, and Colorado. There seems to be an infusion of lucha out there, which strikes me as odd for that area of the country. And you even mentioned in the bio you sent being involved with a lucha promotion. Why is lucha a thing in that area of the country, in your estimation?
Mostly because there's a very large Hispanic population. We're not that far. Like the farther west you go, and especially in the Southwest, there's a large Latino population, and so that's, I guess, the easiest answer I can give you in terms of why there's a lot of lucha promotions in the Southwest. That's just a geographical, demographical thing.
And so you're kind of schooled with the travel thing, but obviously Japan, the farthest you've traveled. But what are some other maybe road stories around some of the challenges that can only happen in pro wrestling that you might be able to share with our listening audience?
Let's see. First time I went to Canada, actually the only time I went to Canada for wrestling anyways, I almost didn't get through the border because I had no idea, like, what you were supposed to tell a customs agent in terms of, like, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm doing it and whatever. The best way, obviously, is just to be completely, like, have a work visa and this is where I'm staying and what I'm getting paid and whatever. Meanwhile, like, I just showed up at the border like, yeah, I'm staying with my friend Mark. Nah, I don't have his address. He should be out there to pick me up. Like, nah, I'm just here for fun. I'm visiting. Like, it was really bad. They, like, kept searching our bags and, like, trying to, like, I don't know. I think I was probably, like, one step away from getting, like, my cavity searched or something like that. It was, like, almost turned away at the border kind of stuff. Definitely not fun. Definitely not fun. Gosh, what else? I mean, road stories, honestly, like, luckily, I think it's been fairly, for the most part, fairly tame, just normal. We're driving all night kind of thing. I guess the only other one that really stands out to me, pretty early on in my career, I was driving to a show in Amarillo and NWA Top of Texas. This is 2014, so one of my first road trips. And me and a friend, Cody, were going. We do the show. It's like 6.5 hours, so not too bad, maybe 7 hours. We do the show. We're driving back, and I'd driven the whole way there. It was my car. I drove the whole way there. No problem. Whatever, man. Let's do this. On the way back, I start getting a little bit, like, my back's a little tight and whatever. So I turn to my road buddy, Cody. I say, hey, man, do you mind taking over for a little bit? And he had drank a 5-hour energy at the venue right before he left. He goes, yeah, no problem. Let me chug this 5-hour energy. So he has number 2. And he starts driving, and after maybe, like, I don't know, 30 minutes, he's like, hey, man, I'm just going to pull over and, like, do some jumping jacks and wake up. I'm getting so tired. And at that point, like, if you're that tired, you're going to be tired in general. Like, you're passing out. Like, your body's beginning an automatic sleep cycle. Like, sorry, dude, it's over. So I was just like, dude, just let me start driving. You go ahead and pass out, whatever. I don't care. I'll just drive. So I take back over driving. He's obsessed with the idea that he doesn't want to pass out on me. One of the rules of the road is you don't leave the driver by himself awake. Whoever's in the navigator spot technically is supposed to stay awake. I don't really care as much, but he's like, no, we got to follow the rules of the road. So he drinks a third 5-hour energy, and he's like still just crashing, like immediately, almost passing out kind of thing. And I'm just like, Cody, get some sleep now, and like that way maybe when we get, whatever, to Castle Rock, 45 minutes away, you can take over there. Like, I would way rather that you actually were able to take over for some driving later than like stayed awake because of some stupid like Bushido code of honor thing that I don't give a shit about. So, anywho, of course he ends up passing out even though he's trying not to. And once we get to maybe like the last exit before Denver, we're about half an hour out, and after that it's like nothing on the highway for a while. He jolts up in his seat and he goes, "You gotta pull over right now." And like, I don't know. I mean, he had 3 5-hour energies, so that energy is going to go somewhere. If you're familiar with laws of thermodynamics, then like energy doesn't just dissipate; it has to be transferred somewhere. Inertia and all that junk. So we had to pull over, and for the next 15 minutes at some 7-Eleven, some poor 7-Eleven bathroom, he was double dragoning. So both coming out of both ends, puking and the other side, just for like 15 minutes, killing it. But honestly, that might be like the most eventful thing that's happened on a road trip. I try not to have anything too crazy happen, man.
Well, that's crazy enough. I don't even know what to do with that.
I don't know either, man.
In any event, wrestling also known for weird venues. What's the weirdest place you've ever had the pleasure or displeasure of being a wrestler? Any barn stories? Any we've heard back of a supermarket before. What's your weirdest venue?
Weirdest venue? For the most part, the actual venues themselves haven't been too bad. I mean, I wrestle in a converted barn regularly, but you would never guess it from looking at the inside of it. You would just think, okay, this is like a good wrestling venue. But I did do a show at an Indian casino in Oklahoma where the ring itself was maybe the most rickety thing ever. On two sides, instead of having turnbuckles, they just had chains that were holding the turnbuckle pads in place. And like the ropes were like literally just garden hose, like you couldn't really hit them at all. Like they just wouldn't bounce back at all. And there was like 2 car jacks under the ring, like just a real like unsafe, I don't want to be in this ring, someone's going to die tonight kind of vibe.
And so you actually led into the next question, which is, with a ring like that, sounds like injuries are more likely than not. What's the worst injury you've had? What's the worst injury you've seen?
Let's see. I think maybe both of those were on the same show. There was a show in Golden a few years ago, and someone gave me just a normal vertical suplex, but they used improper technique, so I ended up falling on my shoulder. Like I went up for the suplex, and then they kind of messed up, dropped me, and I fell directly on my shoulder. Pop, pop, pop. So I separated my shoulder towards the beginning of the match, and I just kind of had to fight through it and deal with it. Use adrenaline and get through. So that sucked. That was the worst that I'd ever personally had. But actually, like a few hours before that, we'd had a seminar with Tommaso Ciampa, and someone doing like a fairly basic drill, they tried to do a leapfrog, and the guy they were leapfrogging over didn't really duck as much, and so they got caught on the person running under them, and they landed on their leg, and their kneecap completely was like on the back side of their knee, and they were laying there screaming, and they had to get I think they had to like take the bottom ropes off and get some ambulance into the venue and cart the guy out. It was pretty freaking gnarly knee injury.
Youch. That sounds
Yeah.
like a once-in-a-lifetime experience that no one would ever want to have. So,
Yeah.
from that, from a worst experience witnessed to thus far, about just over 3 years in, what would you say is that moment where you thought, "Hey, I'm really doing something here. I'm beating my own expectations." What was that moment for you?
I mean, I don't know about beating my own expectations because I think I don't know if that'll ever be a thing. I expect a lot out of myself. But I've had some pretty cool moments so far. I think my first tour of Japan, getting to main event a show was pretty freaking sweet. The feeling of main eventing a show in Tokyo, Japan was definitely like a dream come true, a big moment for me. The other thing, I guess the other big one is this last tour that I just did, getting to work in Korakuen Hall with all the history that's happened there, I don't know, I guess the ghosts in the hall, all the other people that have worked there before, and getting to work for a sellout crowd was, I don't know, that was a pretty special experience that I don't think I'll ever forget.
That hall actually goes back to is it before the founding of New Japan, or how old is that venue? Offhand, do you know?
Well, Korakuen Hall, they made a new Korakuen within like the last 10 years or something, or last 5 years. I don't know when the original one was built, but the newer one's only a few years back. But it was before that. It goes back to like the probably early, maybe before New Japan. Gosh, I don't know. I'm sure even before New Japan, because it's been hosting, boxing, kickboxing. Back when there was just Japan Pro Wrestling, so yeah, it's been around forever.
Does the original hall still stand, or did they demolish it and put a new hall in its place?
Gee, I don't know, man. I'm not that much of a historian, clearly. So, I don't know. I think you can find out that information somewhere, but definitely not in my hollow head. I get dropped on my head way too much to remember something like that.
Which in itself is no fun. So for folks who aren't familiar with DDT, and I know that Japanese wrestling, especially with things like New Japan World and the emergence of the Japanese style into the current U.S. independent style, I think more now than ever before, Japanese wrestling is respected and treated well in the States. But for those who aren't familiar with DDT, what is the flavor of the company for those who have not seen it?
DDT is the Wild West. If you're into craziness, then DDT is definitely the place for you. I wrestled on a moving train this last time when I was there. They've had matches in the streets. They've had matches in like a Gold's Gym. It's the craziest from pretty much any clip that you've seen online that you've gone, oh, holy crap, that's really weird. That's a wrestling clip is probably from DDT. Joey Ryan started the whole King of Dong style thing over there, where he was throwing people with his penis. That was also where Kota Ibushi wrestled a Japanese sex doll. That's where Kenny Omega wrestled an 8-year-old girl or a 9-year-old girl. So anything that you see that you're like, what the heck is going on? Why is this, happening in a wrestling match? It's probably from DDT if it's in Japan. DDT is just, I don't know, it's insanity. It's total, absolute insanity, but I love every minute of it. Anyone that's interested in DDT, I would recommend going to ddtuniverse.com for roughly $8 American a month. They have a streaming service that I've actually had I've never had a problem with my stream. Like, you can watch the shows live as they happen. DDT has been around for over 20 years, so there's a huge back catalog that's getting added to every day. They have press conferences that'll happen that'll go on there. They'll have promos that'll go on there. Like the amount of content. I think a lot of people that start up streaming services for wrestling don't have enough content to justify whatever their price point is. But considering that DDT is actually charging less than the WWE network, and the amount of craziness that goes on there, and the amount of actual materials that go up there, because DDT has its own promotion, DDT, but they also do shows under the DNA banner, under the Ganbare banner. They do shows under the Basara banner, Tokyo Joshi Pro, and I know there's a few others that I'm forgetting about. So it's like you have like 6 or 7 promotions on there, plus a 20-year back catalog, plus their streaming service, from what I've noticed, is the best in terms of like no lag, no issues with the stream. Like every time I've been at shows and literally as soon as my match is over, started streaming the rest of the show so I could watch it backstage or whatever while I was changing and whatnot, and never given me any real issues as long as I had Wi-Fi and whatever. So I super recommend DDT Universe to anyone that wants to figure it out, try it out. If not, you can definitely find some stuff on YouTube, at least a little bit, if you want to dip your toes in and see a little bit of what DDT is about. But, I mean, they have some of the best pro wrestlers in the world. You know, Omega and Ibushi aren't there anymore as much for Ibushi anyways. And Omega obviously signed to New Japan, but, like, they came up through DDT. El Generico, Sami Zayn was there for a long time. The guys they have right now, like Konosuke Takeshita, Tetsuya Endo, like these are guys that are like the future of Japanese wrestling. So don't get it twisted and just think that DDT is some comedy promotion. They do some pretty wild, crazy, funny stuff, but at the same time they have some of the best wrestlers in Japan. So you get, I think, maybe a more full entertainment value out of that $8 a month than you do with a lot of, you know, usually you just get pro wrestling or pro wrestling plus pro wrestling storylines. But when you get like an extra element of comedy and unpredictability, I think that adds a lot to the overall entertainment portfolio of it all.
Obviously, you are one of the foreign talents over there. Who are the current American or North American talents associated with DDT that people who might not be Japanese fans but want to follow talents who are getting exposure in Japan, who might they be able to follow?
I mean, if you like Joey Ryan, he's only like one of the hottest independent acts in the world right now. No big deal. Speedball Mike Bailey is there quite often, which especially for PWG fans that can't see Mike Bailey in America for the next 4 or 5 years because of his visa issues. He's over there. He's killing it over there. Let's see. I know they brought over Colt Cabana not that long ago. From everything I've heard, he seems to want to go back again, and I know they want to have him back there. He's another one of the biggest, indie names. I mean, he's been one of the biggest indie names for like 15 years. No big deal. So, let's see who else. I know they're working on a few other people right now, but I think that's kind of the at least North American stable as of right now. I know they are also working with Heidi Katrina. For anyone that's a fan of British pro wrestling, she's a pretty tall, jacked, built British lady. So she's been doing some of their shows, but she is from Britain, obviously not North America, and she's like living in Japan currently right now, as far as I know. So Gaijin-wise, it's as of right now, it's me, Joey, Colt, and Speedball Mike Bailey is our lineup.
All right, and so I would think that putting together matches with people who are, let's say, different variants of the fluency in English language would be challenging. Did you find your first tour of Japan difficult with that in mind, or did it all kind of fall into place?
No, because wrestling is wrestling. I don't know. I never really had a hard time. DDT also is just like a really welcoming locker room. They're super talented, and I think they have respect for you if you have the cojones to even, travel across the world to come wrestle with them. So there's a certain level of respect between you guys already built in. So I never had any real trouble calling a match I'm sure some people have before, but if you come into something with respect, respectful tone, and you're respectful of the culture, I think they respect you back, tenfold. So I never had any issues now.
All right. And the bio that you sent to the team, you've had a tryout with WWE. For those who maybe are aspiring wrestlers or independent wrestlers listening, what did you learn and take away from that experience that you wish you had known prior to going into the experience?
I mean, I don't know if there's anything like that. You just have to be in shape is the biggest thing. You have to be in shape, and your basic fundamentals have to be tip top. But if you've ever watched one of their videos about, like, I think I came into that part very prepared. I was in really good shape cardiovascularly, and I also I kept all my basics in top notch form. I would say the only, I don't know, like the places where I don't know, I think I could have performed better were just stuff like being in the wrestling industry for longer, so that you're more mature and handling yourself in, I don't know, I guess whatever, a more mature fashion might be the best way to put it. I guess like that, but that kind of stuff just comes with time. Everyone comes along at different rates with stuff like that, but I think it just comes with time. I think now if I had another tryout, my result would be a little different, but I don't know if that's necessarily like a crazy secret or whatever. Just, conduct yourself like an adult and like a grown man, and I think I did for the most part, but there's just certain interactions that I had that I think I could have maybe not been quite so, oh boy, I'm at the WWE Performance Center and I'm so excited to be here kind of thing. I guess if that sheds a little more light on what exactly I mean.
Well, but that's an interesting dichotomy, isn't it? I mean, if you walk into that experience and you're underexcited, you look potentially ungrateful for the opportunity. If you're overexcited, you look more like a fan than a professional, and so it's got to be, I would think,
I don't think you can go in there.
Challenging
I don't think
experience.
you can go. I honestly don't think you can go into a tryout and be too little excited. I think that honestly the WWE likes that. I think they want you to be like, yeah, I don't really need you guys. If you guys want me, then great. Like, I mean, I honestly don't think you can go into a tryout and like I don't think what you have to worry about is coming off as unlikable to the rest of the group. So you don't want to be so aloof that the rest of the group doesn't like you. You want to get along with everyone because they're going to have you there in a team dynamic if they do sign you. So you have to be likable. But as long as you're likable, I don't think you can come in and underplay how much, I don't think you can underplay being there enough. I think they want people that it's not a big deal for them. They want to see people that they know can handle the pressure and the bright lights that comes with being a WWE superstar. So I don't think you could be aloof enough in terms of your actual how you acted outwardly about the experience of being at the Performance Center.
Let's kind of put you in a bit of a time machine for the next couple of questions. Let's suppose you have two opportunities to bring the best out of yourself in terms of in-ring performance and just putting forth your best work. One with somebody who has passed away, one with somebody who is still here. Who do you share the ring with for those two matches and why?
Passed away. Gosh. Man, sadly enough, there's so many amazing talents that are passed away. Man, if I can break the rules a little bit, and I'm going to go with a three-way of me versus Mr. Perfect versus Rick Rude for my passed away, I think that would be absolutely phenomenal. Those guys, masters of the mic, really good workers. I mean, like, they're both in my top 10, and they should be in everyone's top 10. Given mic time, before the match, that would even just be even more of a classic to be able to build that up. If it was like a 3-month program building to a big match, that would be like my dream scenario. As far as someone that's still around right now, gosh, you see, normally my answer would be someone like Katsuyori Shibata, but right now he's got pretty massive health issues. For anyone that follows pro wrestling, Japanese pro wrestling, Katsuyori Shibata probably will never wrestle again. So in that case, I would have to go with Dolph Ziggler as probably my favorite guy in the WWE right now. And I mean, gosh, he's his performance, his selling. I don't know. I think that Dolph is A1 as far as talent and all that kind of stuff goes. So I would love to work with someone like that.
All right. And let's suppose that you could make a change to independent wrestling as a whole, as a concept, as a sport. 2 rules, though: you can't hurt anybody with whatever you change, and you have to help the maximum number of people possible. What do you change and why?
Wow, what a hypothetical. I don't know, man. I think part of the good thing about indie pro wrestling is there's a lot of stuff that I see that I don't necessarily like or agree with, but we have the option to change the culture with everything that we do. With every match that I have the option of changing how pro wrestling, independent pro wrestling is in North America. And I like standing out. I like being the one doing something different and setting my own trends rather than just doing what everyone else is doing. So I don't really necessarily think that that's something that I would even be interested in terms of changing something for all of independent pro wrestling. Like, it's great that there's 32 flavors of ice cream in independent pro wrestling, and I don't think I'd want to change that, especially because if I'm the most unique flavor, not saying that I am, but hypothetically, if you are, that, puts you into a higher demand that makes, what you're doing special.
I think now more than ever before, I mean, I know when I was involved in the sport doing play-by-play in the late 90s, early 2000s, the indie boom was something that was talked about and hopeful. I think now more than ever before, there is an indie boom and there are companies that are thriving, but there's also, for as much as there is that, there are bad promoters. So take us through, from a wrestler perspective, what is a good promoter in 2017 and what's a bad promoter in 2017?
A good promoter is one that wants to pay me exactly what I want. And a bad promoter is one that doesn't pay me exactly what I want. Now, I think, it's such a thin line that that we walk between good and bad promoters. I think the promoters that are bad are the ones that want to pay less and they want to, maybe use you in a fashion that's less than optimal in terms of where you fit in and where you're booked on the card and how you're used. But honestly, as long as a promoter is open and honest and open to ideas from the talent, I think they're doing just fine as far as promotion and all that goes. I think another thing is a good promoter is one that actually promotes, which I think sounds a little silly, but I've noticed there are a lot of places where the idea of promotion is putting an ad on Facebook, and it's like, well, you can't just expect people to come to your show just because it exists. Like, you need to actually probably flyer a little bit, do some radio promotion, something to at least get the idea of this out to people who aren't just on your Facebook friends list. Because it's hard, it's a hustle, but there's so many instances of people building a promotion up by just old school hard work, getting out there and promoting, and they're drawing, 500, 1,000 people a month. There's a lot more example. There's a lot of examples of that, but it's hard work. So most promoters don't want to, actually do that. Anyways, going on a rant, I guess, but yeah, I mean that's the basics of it. If they're open, honest, and they'll pay you and they'll actually promote, then they're a good promoter.
What is the future of independent wrestling in your view, let's say 5 years from now? Is it more streaming services? Is it a la carte promotions? What do you think is coming for the industry as a whole at the independent level?
I mean, I think it's just like, so we're a form of entertainment. So it's just like any other entertainment that you look at. You know, we had Blockbuster and now we have Netflix. Everything is going digital. Every business and industry, it's very inconvenient to actually own things at this point. I just bought a day planner for like writing down my bookings, and it was like the lady that helped me out at Office Max was like, "Oh, well, my mom still uses one of those," and I'm like, "Great." So like it's me and like middle-aged mothers that still use day planners, and that's it. For the most part, people don't want to physically have to own the DVD. They want to be able to press a button and be able to see everything, like, and everything's synced. You have your phone synced to your tablet, synced to your TV. Everything is becoming digital, and it's all being synced together. So I think the more promotions that get on that bandwagon, there's going to be outliers. Like PWG is always going to sell DVDs, but they also are smart, and they'll let you pay for a digital DVD that's whatever, $5 less. You know, it's the actual physical copies of things are going away, and the idea of, you know, obviously you can always do internet pay-per-views, you can always do streaming services, stuff like that, but anything outside of that realm, you know, even like TV is probably going to at some point decline, and the value behind TV, other than obviously like the WWE has both TV and a streaming service, and they freaking crush it. But I definitely think that the more you get into some kind of digital streaming, whatever, like that's kind of where we're going in the future. And that's not just with wrestling. Like I said, that's just life.
So I'm interested in just a hypothetical of PWG, probably one of the only companies still that has a strong DVD business. The majority of their business built on that. What do you think makes them successful in that where other companies are struggling to turn DVDs like they were 5-10 years ago?
I just think it's like a cultural thing with what they've created at PWG. They also run in a building that only seats a certain amount of people. They turn people away at every show. Like if you don't get on and get tickets within the first couple minutes, you're screwed. They've just created a culture of this is how this works, and when you don't see the matches, you buy the DVD, and this is how this works. Like they're just, I don't know. PWG has created like an expectation of we do this and you do this to get, you know, whatever desired result, which is usually buy the DVD or buy the tickets to sit in the room with 500 people that's like 300 degrees. So I don't know. When you just create like a culture and expectation, a lot of the people that their the sales have fallen, you know, they probably didn't have nearly as high of DVD sales in the first place. They also didn't like just create an expectation of when our DVD drops on January 41st or whatever, you guys are all going to buy it. So yeah, I think PWG is just an outlier. They're an outlier that does their own thing, and they're very, very, very smart with their business and what they do. So, you know, good for them that they're killing it. So why change?
What's the biggest life lesson you've learned from being involved in pro wrestling that applies to other things, but you may not have learned as quickly or as succinctly if you weren't involved in the sport?
Don't be a mark.
Interesting concept. So expand that a little bit for those who might. I'm actually intrigued by that. I mean, to me, there's marks for politicians. To me, there's marks for just about anything. And how one conducts themselves and sees the interlinking of it all is a valuable thing. Is that what you meant, or something different?
Yeah, I honestly just meant don't be a jabroni, basically. But no, I think that we're all marks for plenty of stuff in our life. There's plenty of things that I'm a fan of. But don't be a jabroni when you're talking to people, when you're dealing with people in life. And also don't be a mark for yourself. If you just think that you're the best and your shit doesn't stink and you think that you know, I don't know, if you think you're the best, you're probably not, and you're probably never going to improve your situation from where you're at right now. It's a very important skill to be able to detach yourself from your own work and like objectively think about what you need to work on, where your strengths and weaknesses lie, why someone else may be booked ahead of you on a card, and where you should go if you are not happy with where you are currently.
And I assume the workout regimen, just to be ready for ring shape, takes a lot of time and energy. Are there things you've learned about that side of things, fitness, that maybe as a former athlete in other sports are more demanding or different in pro wrestling than they would be in other areas of athletic competition?
Well, I think I've learned that a lot of pro wrestlers don't ever learn anything about fitness and how to work out, unfortunately, on the independent level. But as far as physical demands of the sport, it's the most physically taxing. I think that amateur wrestling was more cardiovascularly taxing, probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but pro wrestling is like a car crash, a controlled car crash, basically. So, yeah, I mean, just getting used to being sore all the time everywhere is definitely a tough demand of pro wrestling.
For folks who haven't seen your work, where's the easiest way people can get a handle on who you are as a professional? Obviously, there's DDT video. I'm sure you're on their streaming service, but where are some other places people might be able to go to catch up with your work?
Yeah, absolutely. DDT Universe is a great place to go for that, definitely, especially if you like crazy, eccentric entertainment. If you like fun, then DDT Universe is the place to go for sure. I have a lot of stuff on YouTube currently that you can check out right now. If you search for Royce Isaacs, there's a lot of content. I also have quite a few promotions that I work with that are on the Fight app currently. So like Future Stars of Wrestling, I believe, is on the Fight app. And so I've been on quite a few of their shows that are on there. Rocky Mountain Pro, which is on there. All the Paragon stuff. They don't film anymore, but it's still on the Fight app. And I've been on there. I was on there quite heavily featured before they stopped running. I know I'm forgetting about other places that are on Fight app. So yeah, definitely get that Fight app, and you should be able to find some of my stuff. YouTube, DDT Universe, probably the easiest way to do all that. And then obviously follow me on social media to keep up with all my latest stuff.
So you mentioned earlier branding and the importance of marketing. Where'd your name come from? What are you in terms of a presentation for folks that have not had the pleasure of seeing you wrestle as of yet?
Yeah, so as far as the name, it just honestly, I liked how it sounded. I wish there was more of a story to it, but that's kind of just how it worked. As far as if you've never seen me wrestle, I think that in terms of visual presentation, I'm pretty eccentric. I'm pretty out there. I wear a mink coat to the ring in general. Usually I like bright colors for all of my trunks and all my gear that I wear. I don't like to look plain. So I kind of stand out like, the peacock with its feathers. Although, gosh, that makes me sound like Dalton Castle. I'm not Dalton Castle. But similar kind of extravagance. And as far as the actual in-ring product, a lot of heavy suplexes and strikes. So, I mean, if you want to see if you're a fan of big time suplexes with, throwing your hips into it and really getting a nice arc on it, then definitely a guy that you'll want to check out. If you like stuff like, if you like Taz, if you like Scott Steiner, that's should be right up your alley. As far as in-ring product, gosh, am I forgetting anything that was a long question, so I kind of went off in my own brain there.
Oh no, that's fine. And so I'm curious. The infusion of striking slash MMA style seems to be very popular in independent wrestling these days.
Sure.
More of a strike based, grapple based style. Is that good for the sport? Bad for the sport? A little bit of both. Your thoughts?
I don't think it's good or bad. I think it's just the flavor of the month. That's where things are headed. I try not to just do what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is doing these like combos that start out with these like crappy like slaps to the face and usually ends with some kind of spinning something. Which if you like the people that can do that well, I love it and it's great. But there's so many people that you can tell just watch a lot of indie matches and they're like, oh, this is what the top guy is doing, so I need to do this as well. Like I just added a Shoney Carter back fist to my arsenal because I was like, man, the last person that I really saw do this in wrestling was like Tracy Smothers, and I'm taking it kind of from Shoney Carter from like whatever 1990 something in the UFC. Like I don't know, I think that you need to, as a wrestler, find unique things to do and unique ways to get into spots and unique ways to present your material. Otherwise, it's like you could see that same product in 12 other places, and someone probably does it a lot better than you. So I think it's important not to just fall into the, oh, everyone's doing the head slap to the, or to the headbutt to the chest with the really crappy leg slap that's obvious. Like, I don't know, maybe stay away from doing that because you're not Jack Gallagher and he's on TV right now, and he's the one that's like popularizing it. You just look like you're a really big Jack Gallagher fan if you're doing that too or whatever.
Or the other thought, which has always been my thought, which is, if we see a DDT in match number 1, by match number 5, if we see 17 of them, kill the DDT.
Yeah, sure. I think that there's a lot of moves that have been cheapened. I think DDTs, super kicks, and German suplexes, and probably enzuigiris have been pretty bastardized at this point. They should be much bigger moves. Pile drivers too. Destroyers are done to death in indie matches at this point as well. So I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. But if you can figure out how to work in the confines of how cheapened they've been and actually make them mean something, then like great. Like, or if you can find a way to make a DDT a little different and make it yours, then that's a really good strategy. But I don't know. It's on the. I can never really be worried about what other people are doing. If someone else does a move that I really like, then I should probably change it. In terms of that actual match. Or also, it's always great to like if you can find a way to actually build to your spot where it doesn't matter that someone else did this earlier or that earlier, and you make people care about it, then great. Then all props to you. Or if you can make a DDT really matter in 2017, then I'm especially impressed. So.
All right, we've got about 5 minutes remaining. I want to just touch on where can people see you live upcoming if they are within the listening of our voice and able to hear and they're in your area or you're in theirs. Where can people make that happen?
This Saturday I make my return to Colorado Pro Wrestling. I will be at Rocky Mountain Pro. They're doing a show in Golden, Colorado at the Colorado State Fairgrounds, the Jefferson County Fairgrounds, rather. So I would definitely recommend checking me out there if you're in Denver, somewhere in the Colorado area. I would also on the 10th, so the next week, I am at National Wrestling League in Kansas City, Missouri. So if you're in the Midwest, check me out there. The weekend after that, I will be doing Future Stars of Wrestling in Las Vegas. So if you're in Nevada, if you're in that Vegas area, or maybe you're in somewhere in California where you're only a few hours drive away, hey, come down, come check me out. That should be a really Future Stars always puts on really, really good shows. So I would super recommend checking that out if you can. And then the week after that, so the 23rd and 24th, I'm doing Gold Rush, and there's one other promotion in California. I want to say like Petaluma or something like that I'm doing. So if you live pretty much anywhere from Kansas City, Missouri, or farther west, there's a show at least somewhat nearby you, if you wanna come out and check out Royce Isaacs, I would love it. Thank you.
All right. Anything else that you think we need to touch on before we close for today, sir?
No, just everyone follow me on my social media, Twitter at Royce Isaacs, Instagram at Royce Isaacs. I have a Facebook fan page and a Facebook personal page, so add me up, follow me, and thank you for all your support. If you check out a match, even if it's just one match, if you see me at a show and you buy some merchandise, hey, thank you so much. Any and all support is absolutely appreciated.
All right, and so we will close for today with that, but we're only halfway through the day. We have another wrestling-related program on our main channel, the Power of Perception Radio Network. If you want to hop over there, if you want to give us a follow on social media, you can do that in one of two ways. Scott Golden on LinkedIn or at PO Perception on Twitter. Both of those will give you information about my coaching practice as well as our parent company, Golden Opportunities Coaching, and all podcast-related materials are there on a regular basis. Come give us a follow. We appreciate that. But until next time, I remind you, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.